much. Well, back here at home, one Philadelphia hospital has taken matters into its own hands to combat gun violence. Temple University runs a program called Cradle to Grave, where teens are shown in graphic detail the horrific effects of gunshot injuries. Now, here's a look at what goes on in the room, and a warning for those with young kids currently with them watching TV. This is going to be pretty intense.
Lamont came in that night and actually was on this very same stretcher. And the first thing that we need to do is find out where all the bullet wounds are. We took clamps like this to try to close up those holes in his heart quickly, because all the blood and all the fluid we were giving him was just coming right out his heart.
Joining me now is Scott Charles, Temple University Hospital's Trauma Outreach Coordinator. Scott, it's good to have you with me. And as we talk about the program, this takes teens through what happened to a boy named Lamont who was killed when he was 16 years old. You're in the room, you're guiding kids through the events, the disturbing events of that night. What's the reaction of those you're trying to teach?
Well, thanks for having me, Thomas. To be honest, the reaction varies. Many times, this is the first time a young gunshot patient, or the first time a high school kid or a young person from the community is stepping foot inside the trauma bay. And for them, it runs the gamut, the experiences that they have there. You know, oftentimes it's a very somber experience. They will have just heard the story of Lamont's life, and here we are kind of walking these students through the final moments of this young man's life. And the goal of the program really is not to scare these kids straight, but rather to educate them about the harsh realities of gun violence. And we feel there's no better way to do so than bringing them as close to this experience as we can without them having to be injured first.
Scott, let's talk about the harsh realities of gun violence, specifically for Philadelphia. As we look at statistics from last year, Philly had 331 murders, almost 90% were by guns. This program beginning in '06. So explain what prompted the program.
Dr. Amy Goldberg, who's the chief of trauma surgery, had been doing surgery up at Temple for a number of years. She'd been working on so many young people year after year that she felt really passionate about bringing kids in so that she can meet them as students rather than having to meet them as patients who were staring up at her. And so beginning in 2006, we set out to bring in as many young people as we could to really kind of counter the mythology that surrounds gun violence. To be clear, gun violence, unfortunately, is the leading cause of death for young African-American men in Philadelphia. And so the point was to bring as many of these young people who stood both literally and figuratively in the crosshairs and to teach them about the realities, because the way we understand gun violence, both as young people and individuals who will be debating this gun issue in America, you know, we understand it through television, through movies, through hip-hop music, but very few of us really understand what is involved with both treating a gunshot patient and in terms of dealing with the recovery afterwards.
Scott, real quickly, though, I want to ask you, because of this program beginning in '06, has Temple been able to chart or see a reduction in the type of gunshot wounds that they have had to treat since the program went into effect? Is it working?
Yes, well, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. You know, the goal primarily was to target young folks. Between 2005 and 2006, when we started this program, we saw a 25% increase in gunshot injury between individuals 16 to 19 during those years. Since then, we've enjoyed a 44% decrease in gunshot injuries among those young people. So we think that that's a good measure of our success, but we also have looked at data, doing both a pre-survey and post-survey to measure attitudes towards guns and violence for those individuals who've come through the program, and we've shown that following the program, individuals who've attended the program see violence as a less realistic and less meaningful form of response to aggression and to shame. And really, we think that that's a powerful measure of what we're able to accomplish with the program.
Scott, as we've been hearing, obviously the national conversation about gun violence has been raised, and last night on Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton had the mom of an 18-year-old girl who was shot the same day that President Obama talked about gun violence in Chicago. I want you to take a listen to what Angela Blake had to say about losing her child.
I just cannot believe this. This is ridiculous. You know, my child was a very sweet child, and to go in such a senseless manner, it makes no sense.
How are urban centers like Philadelphia, Chicago, are they missing out on the conversation, the gun violence conversation that's being had in Washington, D.C. right now as we focus on the magazine clips and assault weapons, when it's a harder fact, as you pointed out, that there is urban gun violence that happens every day in our cities?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about hospitals is that we're uniquely positioned to really understand this issue. I think one of the things that is removed from this debate is a true understanding of the consequences of gun violence. And rarely is it the case that the folks that are talking about this have actually been in the room to see a young person look up at them and say, please save me, and I don't want to die. And then to have to go out and tell the family, like this young woman's family, that the person that they love the most is not coming home to them. I think that if we had a better grasp of this reality, it would really change the lens through which we're talking about this issue.
Scott Charles with Temple University. Scott, nice to have you on with me today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Thomas.